about
Good
to
morning,
offer.
viewers, and welcome to the morning program, the Dailies on Echo Television International. I am your host, Elisha Dashon, and my co-host is Rachel Tenzi. Good morning, Rachel.
Morning,
How
Sarah.
you doing?
I'm fine. How about
I hope
you?
you had a great night rest.
I did.
Okay, yes, I did too. We'll be going through the newspaper review this morning. So remember that we are live on Facebook and also on YouTube. So you can do well, drop your comments, your contribution while we are actually interacting so that you can be actively involved, and you can follow us on our social media handles as well and drop whatever you feel about any of the story that is of interest to you this morning. And we shall start with the first paper, which is the Daily Independent.
On the Daily Independent, PDP, APC, opposite sides of same coin, says Babachi Lawal, endorses Obi Dati ticket. And the writer says, urges Nigeria to vote them for equity, justice, and breath of fresh air. You can continue with that story on page 4. And the big story is on 2023 general election. APC makes case against BVAs. E-transmission of poll results. The writer says polling unit results uploaded real-time sacrosanct, and this is coming from INEC, and you can read that on page 28. Still on Daily Independent, Obi campaign office asks Buhari, INEC to prevent pre-election rigging, warns against sabotaging PVC's collection. We recovered $1 billion from corrupt Nigerians. This is coming from Malami, and you can read that on page 6. UK watching Nigeria closely over 2023 election. This is coming from the High Commission. Vows to sanction individuals who perpetrate violence during poll. And you can read that on page 29. Appeal Court upholds nullification of Zamfara PDP Guba primary. Still on Daily Independent, why I ordered redesigning of Naira notes. This is coming from Buhari. And the writer following that commends CBN Governor, deputies, praises NSPM for new notes. We will monitor large cash withdrawal from banks. This is coming from the CBN Governor. Says new notes now legal tender. Old notes deadline remains same. And at the downside of the paper, governors obtain court orders stopping privatization of 10 power plants, and that can be found on page 6. And we still have a story. Buhari nominates Loretta Onechi as NDDC board chair. That can be found on page 6. And we have a picture story of the new Naira design unveiling. And that's all the news on Daily Independent.
Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. Array of expert personalities lined up as the second Vanguard Mental Health Summit opens, that you can find on page 23. And on Oyo Rally, the Labour Party campaign organization, Aviation Authority speaker over grounded plane. On 2023, APC kicks against deployment of the PVAs and IV. Osinachi was always afraid in her husband's presence. Brother tells the court. Still the issue, concerning her death is still going on in court. So for those who are interested in that story, you can follow up on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. The big story, why I approve the redesign of the Naira locally, coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. Why Naira has not been redesigned in 9 years, coming from the Governor Godwin Emefiele. And he adds, where he yet to receive the large deposit, says only 165 billion Naira received as of last Friday, once there will be no deadline extension. And I hope that we keep to that. In as much as, yesterday social media was actually bustling with lots of comments when people saw the new Naira notes, and trust Nigerians always, make something funny out of serious situations.
Yes.
But regardless of what we feel about the new face of the Naira note, the important thing here is that to some large extent, the CBN have actually achieved what they wanted. That is to get these monies that have been outside the bank for this long period. Even though we are saying that it's just 165 billion Naira that has been recovered as of last week, Friday. And I hope that truly we stick to our word that there will be no extension of this, talking about people making deposit of the old Naira note, because we have stated the fact that it's important at a time like this, even though we feel that it is long overdue. We're supposed to have had this redesign a long time before now. I mean, this 9 years before we are having another redesign. But then I hope that with all of this, then we'll be able to control the vote buying, because regardless of what it is, we've always said that there have to be a system that is working and a structure that is functional at a time like this, because if we do not have, it will not stop those who are planning to go into money laundering, neither will it stop vote buying, neither will it stop corruption or any other thing. So I hope that as this new Naira note has been unveiled and we'll be having it very soon in circulation, I hope that the CBN stick to their word, that those that are still having that old Naira note will actually face a full rod of the law. And then we also have to be careful, because if you look at some of the this Naira notes, at a time like this, Nigerians always have a way. We'll have people who will be dubious and all of that. But I believe that the CBN have done all that they are expected to do to make sure that nobody will be able to have, will not have a counterfeit of all of this money in circulation. So we keep our fingers crossed, and we hope that Nigeria are actually aware of it at a time like this. So for those who are still having the old notes, should do well to deposit these old notes to the bank, so that we'll be able to have this new Naira in circulation. And I hope that it gets to because it will take some time. Trust the way things are working in this country, but I hope that there is a system that will make sure that it doesn't take longer time than necessary for everybody to be able to have access to this new Naira.
Like just as you mentioned about some people being fraudulent about the whole Naira note, and then one of the main reasons the CBN clearly stated for the redesign is to fight counterfeit, that's fake notes out there and all of that. So I want to believe that it's just a redesign. The standard haven't changed, and what you use to check, like that is the standard to check if is a fake note or not, still remains the same. So Nigerians should not be carried away by the color. Of course, it is new, so let's be sure exactly the color, although the colors are quite like intertwined with the previous colors we've had and all of that, but then we should still know the difference, because I want to say the 200 looks like like the 10 naira, the color or thereabout, yes. So but still, of course, when you see 10 naira, it doesn't look like 200 naira. So some of these little difference might still be new to us, but what makes a naira authentic still remains in the naira, and you can know that from the texture and some of the guidelines we've been given in the past concerning how an original naira note should look like. So we should be careful and not fall into the hands of fraudsters concerning fake naira notes and all of that. But still yet, we are happy to see that people are depositing money into the banks, in as much as it's not much yet, and then the target has not been reached for the amount of money the CBN wants to be back into the banks and circulating in the banks. But then there is progress going on. I want to believe that before the deadline for this, the target will be met, and then subsequently we will see the results, and that the reason behind this redesign in the first place is being achieved. We really look forward to that. Yes.
All right, let's look at other stories still on the Vanguard newspaper. The picture story here, which is still on unveiling the newly design of the Naira notes. There we can see the EFCC boards, the president, and the CBN governor, among others. Other stories here say $480 million Paris refund governors vow to stop consultants payment. That you can find on page 8. Foreign portfolio investment rise to 11.8% to 321 billion naira. That you can find on page 19. Downside of the paper, Obi represents soul of Indibo coming from Ohanize. And other stories here says UK watching closely, says the British High Commissioner. That's concerning the 2023 election. We have recovered $1 billion looted funds since 2015. This is coming from the federal government. And we have it from the human angle here on Baby Factory. Police rescue 6 girls and 6-month-old baby in Nasarawa. And I hope they ransack everywhere else for us to be able to fish out those who are, behind all of these baby factories that we're having in various states across the Federation. Nigeria at risk of the Greek listing by Financial Action Task Force next year, coming from the ICPC. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, new Naira notes difficult to counterfeit. This is coming from Buhari. Osun Assembly passes 138 billion Naira 2023 budget. Average price of diesel hits 801.09 naira per litre. This is coming from NBS. And the big story, federal government recovers $1 billion loot under Buhari administration as government expresses worries over budget padding, approves extension of anti-corruption strategy document to fight corruption. NCC announces upcoming auction of the lots of 3.5G spectrum. Still on 2023 election, Ogun Central Monarchs endorse Obiodun for second term. 12 billion naira National Digital Innovation Entrepreneurship Center will be ready for use by 2023, and this is coming from Pantami. Coming from NSMP, Dangote Sugar upscales $700 million investment, increases sugar plantation by 179% to 24,200 hectares. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the Metrics paper, Atiku hails Buhari flag off of the oil production in North that you can follow up inside the paper. On 2023, court throws out suit seeking Bola Tinubu disqualification. A federal high court in Abuja has struck down a request by the Action People's Party APP seeking to notify the candidate of Bola Tinubu as the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate for the 2023 election. APP has dragged the All Progressive Congress to court, and if you want to follow up a story, you can do well to get the metrics and read more of that inside the paper. German upset Germany in another World Cup shocker. Naira redesigning, currency outside bank hits the highest record of 2.84 trillion naira in October. This is coming from the CBN. The big story, which is on PDP, opposition party crack widens. The South-South governors move against Wike retaliate support for Atiku. They want to kill me because I asked Ayu to resign. This is coming from the River State Governor, Yesom Wike. And a Muslim ticket, Baba Chair Lawan vows to remain in APC to work against Tinubu. Wow, we are sure to get more of the stories as the politics are coming closer. Motorists groan over fuel scarcity as queue resurfaces in Lagos. Why I'm in politics, coming from Fuke Akindele. You can read more of that also. Amid massive reception in Ibadan, Obi assures Nigerians of greater prosperous nation. And we can see President Muhammadu Buhari and the CBN during the unveiling of the new Naira notes in Nigeria to Nigerians yesterday. Downside again, Buhari stir controversy, asks Senate to confirm Loretta Onyocha as a new, talking about her appointment into government. And you can do well to grab the metrics and read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
On the Guardian newspaper, poll ranks Obiano as best Anambra governor since 1999. 2023 poll will dislodge desperate politicians, in Guinea Amadi declare. Still on HIV, prevalence in girls, women 60% higher than in men, says NACA. Ashiru accuses El-Rufai of plunging Kaduna into debt, unfolds economic agenda, and you can read that on page 6. And the big story on the Guardian newspaper, CBN rallies support for cashless economy, unveiling new note. And the writer following that says, new notes fortified against counterfeiting, says Buhari. Emefiele EFCC, ICPC to track withdrawal of large volumes of cash. Old banknotes should be allowed to phase out over time, Adi insists. Expert says currency redesign has no economic relevance. Still on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, I think let's move to the other paper, and I think the next paper we shall be taking is the Nation newspaper. Ogun Central Monarch backs Abiodun for the second term, that you can get on the Nation newspaper. Bandits demand new Naira notes to free abducted victims. Tinubu inaugurates Ebonyi Government House Road. And we have from the world of sport, Ronaldo Yema begins World Cup quest, and that you can find on page 30. Ex-AGF Idris returned $900,000 cash, witness tells the court. Other stories still on the Nation newspaper. Wike overrated, Atiku can hit back at governor. And the big story on the paper here, we have the electricity crisis. Governors reject scale of 10 power plants. NGF insists on legal solution to the $418 million Paris Club refund fee rule. It's difficult to fake the new Naira note, says Buhari, and we can see the picture story of the Naira note of 200, 500, and 1,000 together with the president and also the CBN governor. Downside, we have Efe Babalola to challenge Ekiti Speaker impeachment, and we have Kwara Elevate 9,175 that you can find on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. And you know the issue of this electricity crisis, Rachel, and governors rejecting the scale for the 10 power plants. I remember there was a time where most of the power plants were idle, and then we're looking at selling them off. And as we want to sell them off, we're still struggling with electricity, with power. We can see that queues are resurfacing again as a result of fuel scarcity in Lagos. And yesterday I said, I'm afraid that as the festive season is drawing closer, I do not want a situation where we hear that various states, because there's always a side effect to all of this. It won't just stop in Lagos. Before realizing it spread to other parts. So I hope that we are planning towards doing that. But there's still in the issue of governors rejecting the sale of this power plant to private individuals. I hope that the government are ready to really handle it and then revive this power plant that have been idle for all this while. It's one thing for you to say you won't give it to private individuals, even though we know sometimes when it gets to the private individuals, it's for the better of some few individuals. But we hope that if you are rejecting it from being sold to private individuals or private sectors, then I hope that the government is ready to sit up and do something about power in the nation.
We're still a mixed economy. I like to say, in as much as we have capitalism and socialism, we're still a mixed economy in Nigeria. And I believe that the power sector should be one of those sectors that the government is fully in control of it. And I'm not saying that privatizing it is a bad idea completely, but I feel when it comes to electricity, the government should be in charge of it. We are seeing how, because of the privatization of the then NEPA now to PHCN, we can see that there is a higher increase when it comes to units. Now there's there's non-prepaid meter, whereas years ago it wasn't like that. But now there's just a constant increase in the tariff, exactly, in the tariff and all of that. While with government, it wouldn't be that bad. And I believe that businesses are not finding it easy if they have to run on prepaid meters and all of that, and with such high tariff here and there. So yes, in as much as privatization is not a bad idea completely, but I want to believe that when it comes to the power sector, this is one place that the government should be fully in charge of. We know where we are now as a country, and we know that we're still growing. So some things might not really favor us to some extent. It will just add the cost of living and make business suffer to some extent. So yes, the government should bring back these plants to life. And instead of thinking privatization, we have everything it takes to be in control of our power sector. And that's what the government should do.
Of course, Rachel. Well, that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On the New Telegraph, World Bank unveils agenda for Nigeria, others in $300 billion blue economy, and you can read that on page 7. Naira appreciates to 780 per dollar at parallel market over new notes. And I like to say this is something good. If the new notes just been unveiled yesterday has helped our last week, it was still at 840 or thereabout, and today we can see it down to 780. It's still high. I would say I'm looking forward to when dollar will be back to there about 200 naira, like naira to, or less than that. Yes, of course, more value. But then this is progress that is welcome, and we can say we're looking forward to more big stories like this. And the big story on New Telegraph, federal government has recovered 1 billion naira looted funds since 2015. This is coming from Malami. Over 3,000 persons convicted for graft. This is coming from EFC. Approves new anti-corruption strategy document for 2022 to 2026. Says government disappointed at budget padding revelation in National Assembly. And you can read all of that on page 2 of New Telegraph. APC parliamentarians directorate accuses South governors of commenting 950 billion naira oil money, and you can read that on page 25. FUTA and ASU boycott classes over federal government no work, no pay policy. Still on 2023 election, Northern Christians reject APC, declares support for Obi and Labour Party. Still on 2023 election, INEC organizes over insecurity and campaign financing. You can read all of that on pages 2, 3, and 4. I approve Naira redesign to check counterfeiting hoarding. This is coming from Buhari. New notes not priority for Nigerians, OPS tells president. We have a story that says federal government raises 3.3 trillion from domestic market to fund 2022 budget deficit. Senate probes concessioning of 700 megawatt Zengura power plants. You can read that on page 2 and 7. Buhari asks Senate to confirm Onechi NDDC board chair. And that there is a study at the downside of the paper. 1 glass of wine a week during pregnancy may alter baby's brain. And you can read that on page 25. And that's all the news on New Telegraph.
You know, Richard, before we move to the next paper, this 2023 INEC agonizing over insecurity and campaign financing is really troubling, because there's a writer under that story that says, reconsider decision to transmit result electronically, APC tells the commission. I remember it was the first time when we said we wanted to go digital
Yes.
in transmitting of results. There were questions and Nigerians were asking, how prepared is INEC for this? If INEC is presently complaining about campaign financing, we know that in as much as they are an independent body, they are not totally independent, because they do not generate funds on their own. They depend on the government for this. And the present government of the day, we know, is presently the APC government. So if we are having the same government telling the INEC to reconsider the electronic transmission of results, what would the reasons be? Possibly, are we looking at the fact that we do not have enough funds? Already from some of the papers we saw that the UK is closely watching the polls come 2023. So we need clear answers. Why will the APC government ask this commission to reconsider the electronic? I mean, we are far behind the other developed worlds, that because for a long time lots of nations and countries have already gone digital without a need. I'm even looking forward to a day that I don't even need to line up. I'm at home, I just click my vote regardless of whether I'm in the country or not. I'm part of the system already. But then we are taking a step, so it seems as if we're taking one step forward and 10 steps backward. So I do not know why the APC is telling INEC to reconsider that, but I just hope that we don't see a situation where when I go to the polls and then remember we had issue with the beaver, the reader, where you go and then that there was no light, something is happening, so people even tamper with the all of the the register and all of those things coming up. So I just hope that that won't be the picture that will come 2023. So no matter what it is, that should be sorted out right now before it gets too late, and then we need to hear some story that touches the heart, which I believe Nigerians are not prepared for that, because we were happy when we said we were doing that.
I believe INEC have been saying they are ready. We don't want APC to be the one telling INEC to reconsider. If there's a problem, I believe INEC should come out themselves and say it. Not of course, they are not totally independent. Of course, they depend on funding from the government. It still doesn't matter and they are the ones to say we can do this or not. So if INEC have been saying BVAs for sure, we can do our electronic this state voting transmission and all of that. That's all INEC have been telling us. If there is a problem or any hitch or any problem or a problem they might face, let INEC be the one come out by themselves and tell us this is the situation on ground, this is the problem, but not APC doing that. So I believe at this point we will wait to hear what is INEC response to APC asking them to reconsider. Let INEC be the one tell us what is the situation on ground, because they've assured us they are ready. So if they're not, let them be the ones themselves to come out and tell Nigerians that this is the problem and we have to do this and that.
And I look for when we have political parties leaving the commission to do their work. We hate interference coming from all of these political parties. Let them leave the independent commission to do their work. Well, let's take another paper, which is the leadership newspaper. ISWAP attacks military basic in Borno and kill 8 soldiers. This released that one. You can read that story on page 4 to 6. We have the President Muhammadu Buhari names Loretta Onocha the 5th NDDC board chairman. Other stories on the paper, we have 82 million Nigerians unemployed in the 4th quarter of 2022. This is coming from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and this really sad. If out of over 220 million, we are having 82 million Nigerians. The last time I checked, the statistics of unemployed youth was about 33% or so.
Yes.
So now for us to be having 82 million Nigeria, of course, the percentage has increased. So we do not know what the problem is presently, but we hope we address that, and whoever is coming into government should know that he needs to be more creative, innovative to be able to get all of this unemployed youth or people who are unemployed into the system. There are lots of work I think Nigeria, the government is yet to realize. So when we set certain bodies, some parastatals that will actually look into all of these things, we'll be able to reduce this unemployment. Even though I know it's not just in Nigeria, we have this issue. Lots of workers are laying off lots of companies are laying off workers, because of inflation, lack of payments, and all of that thing. But I hope we'll sit back and reconsider and think, what more can we do to reduce this number?
Said over the years, I believe that the government have been carried away by a lot of schemes that are not going to bring sustainable growth to the country. There was a U-win with the governor, with the Goodluck's administration. There was U-win then, and when Buhari came, it was end power. There's nothing wrong with that, but 2 years is not only what somebody needs to be earning 30,000 naira. Or let's talk about the NYSC, where we are blinded and you feel you're out of school and you go and you're getting this 33,000 naira monthly, and then I'm not saying any of this thing is a bad idea or an initiative that is not good or welcome. But I feel over the years, we've had governments that have been focusing more on this scheme than bringing in substantial employment for its citizens. And it won't be surprising that we have unemployment rate growing, because if after 2 years U-win is done, after 2 years N-Power is done, those people that were employed for that period of time, getting their minimum wage of 30,000 naira, are now unemployed, and they're now added to the unemployed statistics, the percentage of those who are not employed. So when you look at it, it's not, this kind of thing doesn't take us far. It doesn't. So I want to say, let the government wake up and think, we need, after 2 years, do I stop existing? You don't. Life goes on and you have to keep moving. What we need as youths of the country is not a 2-year employment of a minimum wage. I need to be able to know that I will have a job that will last me my entire lifetime until when I'm 65 and I retire, and all of that, not just something for a short period of time. So let the government stop looking short term and start bringing out scheme for long-term development, long-term employment scheme that will help unemployed citizens and youths of this country. If not, as long as we keep focusing on this kind of empowerment scheme, I believe we will keep struggling with unemployment. It won't go anywhere.
Of course, of course. Well, look forward to more being done on that sector or the issue of unemployment. Let's look at other stories still on the leadership. Mixed reaction as CBN unveiled the new Naira notes, and we have slow return of the old notes worries the CBN. $418 million Paris refund, governors weigh legal option against consultants. After leadership report, INEC moves to tackle campaign spending breaches. The right of knowing that big story says goes tough on financial abuses by parties candidates to issue guideline on campaign spending today. Silent on inability to publish parties audited accounts in 5 years, and then the APC chairman doubts use of the Beavers electronic transmission of results. Well, we hope that the INEC will actually stick to the Beavers and also the electronic transmission of results, and they should actually go tough on the spending. You know, if we are not having, if we've not had any audits been done on the parties or candidates for the past 5 years, I think INEC should jack up and also get other sister bodies to help them to be able to persecute those who have been spending over. Let's not just keep talking and then to be on the papers, but then let us walk the talk at the end of the day. Still on the leadership, we have the debt management rises 3.3 trillion naira borrowing to support 2022 budget deficits. Anti-craft war, $1 billion recovered, 3,000 convicted in 7 years coming from the federal government. Still on Qatar 2022, Japan shunned Germany in another upset. Spain trashed Costa Rica. That you can find on page 55. Still, the picture story is on the redesign of the new Naira notes, and then you can do well to get the leadership and read any other story that is of interest to you. But before we move further, we'd like to take a break at this moment so we can actually read some of your comments if you have dropped any, and also let you choose some of the stories because they are important at a time like this. What do you feel about what the APC chairman is telling the commission to reconsider the Beavers and also the electronic transmission of results at a time when Nigerians are excited and happy that something great is happening to the nation? So we really love to hear from you. So when we come back, we'll read your comment on our official Facebook or YouTube pages. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still your morning program, The Dailies on Echo Television International. We've been looking at various stories that have been on the paper, from the pictures of the, the launching of the redesign of the new Naira notes, and also we saw what the APC chairman is saying to the commission, that is to INEC, to reconsider the Beavers and the electronic transmission of results. So we really love to hear from you. What do you feel about the story at a time like this? And do well to drop your comments, your contribution on any of the valid stories on the papers this morning. Let's move further with Rachel taking us on the next paper.
On the This Day newspaper, INEC vows to end vote buying, violation of campaign finances. The writer says identifies 4 critical areas of concern to Nigerians, insists no more use of incident form, declares BVC's irreversible. British High Commissioner explains why 2023 polls are important. House steps documentation concerning attacks on INEC offices. Fintechs, bankers, policymakers gather as financial inclusion confer begins today, and you can read that on page 47. We are solidly behind Atiku, Okowa, South governors declare. And the big story on This Day newspaper, Buhari excited by new banknote, says enhanced security features will make counterfeiting difficult. Maintains initiative will facilitate monetary policy objectives. Emefiele EFCC ICPC to monitor massive bank withdrawals. reveals 165 billion naira of old banknotes and returned, insists anchor borrowers program not exposed to flood, warns against hoarding, arbitrage amid food shortage. Still on the Disney newspaper, there is a picture story. Ibom Air gets two new A320-200 series aircraft. And that's all the news on Disney newspaper.
Let's take a look at the first news. PDP crisis, we are working to reconcile with the G5 governors. This is coming from Okowa, as South governors restate support for Atiku. New Naira notes will be difficult to counterfeit, coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. Other stories here, $1 billion looted fund recovered under Buhari's government. This is coming from the Attorney General of the Federation, Madami. Muslim ticket. I remain APC member but will support Atiku. This is coming from Baba Chair Lawan, even though the papers tend to be counterfeiting, to be kind of changing. I saw where they said he's supporting the Labour Party because he said that both the APC and the PDP are the same, just like having different, the same coin, different sides, you know. So I do not know, but they will just follow that story closely. For those who are interested, just get the first newspaper and read that detail of that story. Other story here, we have Dunji orders detention of Zamfara resident over 9 million naira shortage of protection levy. This really is sad one. I hope the military will swift into action in that area. On 2023, we will win Kanu government poll by hook or crook, coming from the APC chair. This is not something that should be coming from the chairman, because election is not a do or die affair. So it shouldn't be about hook or crook. If you get it, you get it. If you do not, you leave it to whoever actually emerges into power. Funds spent on Naira redesign should have been given to ASU. This is coming from Sowore. And the screaming here say, daring, Zamfara bandit abduct 4 demand ransom in redesigned Naira notes. Wow. As Buhari unveils the new 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1000 Naira note at the Aso Rock, bandits refuse to own Naira note, vow to keep victims until December, when the new notes will be in circulation. As CBN governor said, Nigerians will now find it difficult to withdraw large amounts. Now, this is really something I want us to look into, Rachel. Bandits are already threatening.
Yes.
Kidnapping is so on, and they say they need the new Naira notes. And we know that nobody have access to that note until December 15th. So that means we're trying to say that these people will still be in the dens of these kidnappers until the new Naira note. What do you feel about this story at a time like this?
The truth is, it's a sad one. Let me begin by saying that it's very sad, and we know how ruthless these people have been. Even after collecting ransom in the past, some ended up dying, and they will still ask for ransom to release the corpse of those people. We've seen such stories and we've heard of it. Now, the thing is, they are also in trouble, because throughout this year, starting last year, for over 2 years now or more, kidnapping has been a big business in this country. Permit me to say so, because these people have been asking for millions and they have been getting it. Now, don't forget that they also need the new Naira notes. And they can't go to the banks, of course, to deposit their old Naira notes, as we can see others are doing it. But they also need to keep living. Let me put it like that. And they need the new Naira note. So in a lot of ways, I'm not surprised that this is coming out, because they also need the new Naira notes to continue getting arms, to continue doing what they are doing. But the danger now is for those who are in their custody. And what is the government doing about it? And I don't know if when they were thinking about this redesigning, they thought about these terrorists, kidnappers and all of that, because these are all of the issues that are facing Nigeria, insecurity, and like it or not, they need funding to do the evil they're doing. And now they're requesting for the new Naira notes. So it breaks my heart, because when it comes to this, I don't know what is the way forward. I have no idea what the government is going to say about this, what the family of these people are going to do about this. I have no idea what is the way around. But the bottom line is that I feel perhaps maybe the CBN did not consider insecurity and kidnappers asking for the new design note for kidnapped victims and all of that, because these are all some of the disadvantages that will come to something like this. But then I hope that people are already working on it. I hope our security agencies are working on it. I hope the government is doing something about it, because I know these people will have to. It's a must, because they need to continue existing. Also, they need to go on with life, and they will be making so much money with kidnapping. And I know that they will not, when it comes to this, I believe this might be a very difficult one, because they will make sure they get these new Naira notes.
You know, it breaks my heart because we're still yet to hear what is happening to Mamu.
Yes.
The last time we saw it on the papers was they were giving 60 more days to interrogate him. Nothing has been said so far on the papers about Mamu case. When the CBN said they were going to redesign the Naira note and they had to go ahead from the president, Gumi came out to tell us that if we are saying we're going to redesign, this bandit might come out asking for the dollars. They might not want to use the Naira anymore because there's no redesign of the dollars. But then the question right now here is, why are we yet to have the names of those sponsoring Boko Haram? I think that should be the starting point. If we have those that are actually behind that, regardless of whether you are high and mighty, your name is being showed, your picture is there. We saw the pictures already. They are in various the military cartoons and all of that. They said if you have anything, certain amount will be given to you to appreciate you. And we spoke about all of these hunters that we have, with or without the money, bounty hunters, with or without the money, are ready to, you know, if it means them dying at the place of their duty, they would do it because they love their country. We all love our countries. But I am worried because how comes are these people still having a swell time in a country where we have declared war, that these people are not our friends whatsoever? If we wanted to stop the amnesty for the militants, and we are still having that these people, if they are repentant, the repentant Boko Haram, they do have rehab. And after that, some of them are even given jobs, just to encourage them not to go back to the evil life they have been having. So I think that possibly the tactics we've been using is not working.
It's not.
We have to change it, because if we're talking about, when it came to oil tech, we said the technology they use are more advanced. If you even take a look at the weapons these people use, they are even more advanced than the one our military are using. So I think we have to think thoroughly. We have the intelligence in this country. I believe they are no more intelligent than we are. And we have to really, really check each of this sector, because for them to be able to have all of this thing, it will be surprised you see that somebody is being kidnapped, and then while the church is still trying to help you to raise funds, they are already aware that there is a fundraising. I begin to wonder who is telling them, because we have snitches everywhere. Nobody is to be trusted, you know. And I wouldn't be surprised that even in the banks, we have these people working with them. So I believe that we have to change our formats. We need to change the way we do things. If really we want to get results out of it, it's really a sad one for those who have been kidnapped. And they will be in that custody till December. And we do not know how they are going to get a new Naira note, because you can't even withdraw a huge amount of money. You'll be a suspect. So I don't know how the government is planning to do this, but I hope that we call all the intelligence people that we have to come together, sit down. If any report is being given to us, let us take our time to please read the reports, look for solutions. There are recommendations coming from expert analysts, people who really want this country to grow. And we have all that it takes. And if we need help, the foreign nations are always waiting to give us the help that they want to give. We saw when there was alert from various countries about all of this. And so it's really a sad one for those who are in the custody, but I hope that we really change the format of things we're doing. We really need good results. And I think we have a comment on our Facebook page. The first one say history making. Well, thank you so much. This is coming from Deborah. The next one we have keep up the good work, still coming from I think Daniel. Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel, for that comment. We'll keep up the good work by keeping our government accountable and also holding them accountable to every word they say. Let's look at other stories. Still on the first news, downside I have Adebayo campaigns for Obi, insists on the Southeast producing the next president. Paris Club dispute, governors insist on legal solution. Tinubu will rule Nigeria for 8 years. This is coming from Governor Sude of Nasarawa State. Buhari appoint Loretta Onocha as the NDDC chairman. And on 2023, Wike's refusal to support Atiku won't affect the PDP chance. This is coming from Bola. Court strike out case against Tinubu. And we have Amazon founder Bezos donates $123 million to homeless families. And on Qatar, Spain destroy Costa Rica 7-0. And that's all on the first news.
On the Nigerian Tribune, still on Naira redesign, EFCC, ICPC to track huge bank withdrawal. This is coming from the CBN governor. INEC to mobilize national institutions responsible for tracking, combating illicit flow of funds, and you can read that on page 14. And the big story is Ekiti Assembly Speaker's impeachment reckless. Afe Alani Pekun Falana, 4 other sons, says Adeluba cannot function as speaker, and you can read that on page 4. Okowa Emmanuel Diri Obaseki meet in Yenegua, reform support for Atiku. I remain in APC but will support Atiku Babachi Lawan. APC disastrous years affect women more. This is coming from IU. Inaugurate PDP women campaign cancelled, and you can read all of that on page 4 and 5. Adebanjo leads Obidati campaign to Southwest, insists on justice, fairness, and equity. You can read that on page 4. 1 killed, palace burned as angry resident protest installation of new Ikirun monarch. Edo government receives 2.1 billion naira refund, 13% derivation fall, shortfall, says Wike playing politics, and you can read that on page 6. Woman stabs husband to death, and sex night day recovered after 3 months separation. You can read that on page 29. Ogun Central monarch endorsed Obiodun for 2nd term, and you can read that on page 15. $1 billion looted funds recovered since 2015. This is coming from the federal government. We have Senate probes concessioning of 700 megawatt Zungaru power plant, and that can be found on page 6. And on the Nigerian Tribune, there are a picture story with the unveiling of the new Naira notes. We can see the president and the CBN governor, and down and below that picture story, we can see one with Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let me round it up with the Daily Sun 2023 presidency. Why I prefer Obi to Tinubu. This is coming from Adebanjo, says the Labour Party candidate in Oyo says Nigeria needs him. That you can find on page 26. Federal government, state and local government share 736.782 billion naira in October. The big story, redesign Naira, 165 billion naira back in banks as Buhari unveils new note. Cashless policy now fully enforced. This is coming from the CBN. And we have INEC raises fresh security alert over 2023 polls to publish guidelines on campaign finances, expenses of parties and candidates. Fuel scarcity, commuters groan as fare hit the roof in Lagos and in Abuja. Downside, we have UBTH to commence open heart surgery. This is really a good one. So this is more reasons why the government need to focus on our health sector, so we can have more of the centers that will conduct this operation without you having to travel to the US, India, or any foreign nation for all of these surgeries. Well, that's all we can take on the Daily Sun and even on the Dailies this morning. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to our viewers. Thank you to the crew members and each and everyone that made this program a success. Until we come your way again, go out and have a blissful day.